I used to live in a duplex. My neighbor, Greg, was the kind of guy you don't really remember. Early 40s, awkward, polite but distant. We weren't friends, but we talked enough. He gave me his Wi-Fi password once when mine went out. I brought him cookies once after he had surgery. Stuff like that. Christmas night, around 1 a.m., I was cleaning up wrapping paper and leftover food when I heard something slam into the shared wall between our living rooms. I figured Greg dropped something heavy, until it happened again, and again. Slow, heavy rhythmic thuds. Not like hitting furniture, more like something or someone being pushed or slammed. I texted him, "Everything okay over there?" No reply. The pounding kept going, slower now, spaced out like someone was losing strength. So I walked outside to check through his front window. His lights were still on. The TV was playing static. That creeped me out immediately because Greg was the cleanest, most routine person I knew. He once apologized to me because I heard him sneeze through the wall. Something was wrong. I knocked lightly. No response. Then I knocked harder. Still nothing. I put my ear to the door. That's when I heard footsteps, but not heading toward the door. More like someone was pacing back and forth. Then a voice, low and strange, said, "Go back inside." Not Greg. Not even close. I staggered backwards so fast I slipped on the icy steps. I scrambled up and ran to my place to call 911. When police arrived, they kicked in his door within seconds. Greg was lying on the living room floor, unconscious, blood pooling under his head. But the real nightmare was in the bedroom. A man, dirty clothes, wild eyes, was hiding behind the door gripping a hammer. A complete stranger. Later, I found out he was a transient man who'd been sleeping behind our trash bins for weeks. He saw Greg walk home earlier that night and forced his way inside through the back door. What hit me hardest wasn't that Greg was attacked. It was what the officer told me afterward. He probably would have come to your side next. Your living room window doesn't latch properly. Greg survived, but moved out 2 weeks later. And I never slept in that house again. Not after knowing a stranger was pacing inches away from my living room, deciding if he wanted to kill me too. I spent Christmas night at my aunt's house in a small snowy town. Her street was quiet. Every house had yellow lights and Christmas decorations. But one house stood out, a dark house with a single blue wreath hanging on the door. No lights, no sound, just that strange glowing blue circle. My aunt told me the man living there kept to himself. She said he was quiet, polite, a little odd, but harmless. I believed her. That night, around midnight, I couldn't sleep. The house was too warm, too silent, so I stepped outside for some cold air. Snow fell slowly. The street looked empty. Then I noticed a figure standing near the house with the blue wreath. A man in a heavy coat. He wasn't moving. He was just facing the door. At first I thought he lived there, but then I realized he had no key. He just stood there, breathing slowly, staring at the wreath. I whispered, "Sir, are you okay?" He didn't answer. He didn't even turn. So I stepped back. Something about him felt wrong. I watched him for another minute, and then he walked around the house, disappearing behind it. No hesitation, like he knew exactly where to go. I told myself not to panic. Probably a neighbor. Probably nothing. But then a light inside the house turned on. A weak, flickering yellow light. The house wasn't supposed to be empty, but it also wasn't supposed to suddenly be awake at midnight. I kept watching, and after a moment, the man reappeared in the front yard. But this time, he wasn't alone. He was dragging someone. A woman. Her wrists were tied. Her mouth was taped. She was fighting him, kicking weakly. But he dragged her like she weighed nothing. My stomach dropped. Her eyes were wide. She saw me. She saw everything. I froze. The man didn't see me yet. He was too focused on pulling her toward the back of the house again. I could have run. I could have stayed silent. But I made a mistake. I whispered, "Hey." The man stopped. He turned. Slowly. His face was calm. Too calm. Like this wasn't the first time. He stared at me for 3 long seconds. Then he let go of the woman and started walking toward me. Not running, just walking, like he knew I couldn't escape. I backed up. I reached for my phone, but he was already halfway across the snow. I forced myself to shout. I called the cops. I hadn't, but it worked. He stopped again. He stared at me, then turned and sprinted into the woods behind the house. I ran to the woman. She was shaking, her clothes torn, her hands freezing. The police came. They searched the woods, but they never found him. The next day, detectives told us the house owner had been out of town. The man with the blue wreath didn't live there. He had broken in hours earlier. He had cut the power. He was waiting for anyone walking alone on Christmas night. They asked if I could describe him well enough to help them catch him. I said yes, but the truth is, I can still see his face clearly, sometimes too clearly, because I swear, on quiet nights, I still see a blue wreath glowing outside random houses, and I never know if he is behind it. I was 18 when this happened. Christmas night, cold wind, empty roads. My parents were out visiting relatives, and I stayed home to finish a project. The house felt too quiet, too still. Only the soft hum of the heater and the blinking lights from the Christmas tree kept me company. Around 11:30 p.m., someone knocked on the door. 3 slow knocks. Not loud, but heavy, like the person wanted me to open, but didn't want the neighbors to hear. I wasn't expecting anyone. Nobody visits unannounced on Christmas night. I walked to the door slowly. I didn't open it. I just looked through the peephole. A man stood there, tall, wearing a brown jacket and a wool cap. Snow covered his shoulders. He wasn't shaking. He wasn't cold. He was just staring at my door like he knew I was behind it. I whispered, "Who is it?" He didn't answer. He just stayed still. Then very softly he said, "I know you're alone, Lucas." Hearing my name made my chest tighten. I stepped back. I didn't know this man. I had never seen him before. He knocked again. 3 knocks. Exactly the same rhythm. Slow. Heavy. "Lucas, open the door," he said. Calm. Almost gentle. Like a teacher telling a student to come forward. I grabbed my phone and dialed my dad. No answer. Then I dialed my mom. No answer either. They were probably on the road. I looked through the peephole again. He was still there, but now he was smiling. A small smile. A knowing smile. He said, "I saw your parents leave. I watched them drive away. You didn't think they left you alone, did you?" My whole body froze. How did he know that? How long had he been watching? I whispered, "Please leave." He pressed his ear gently against the door, like he wanted to hear my breathing. Then he said something I can never forget. "You left your kitchen window unlocked." My heart almost stopped, because he was right. I had opened it earlier while cooking, and I never shut it properly. I ran to the kitchen. The window was open. Just a crack, but open. Snowflakes were blowing inside. And on the counter, I saw something I didn't notice before. A wet glove print. A large one. Fresh. He had already tried to get in. I locked the window, pulled the curtains, turned off the lights, and hid behind the dining table. My breathing sounded too loud. The house felt too dark. Then I heard footsteps outside. Slow footsteps circling the house. Crunching snow. One step at a time. Stopping at each window. Like he was checking them. Like he was choosing one. Then the steps stopped near the back door. Silence. Then the sound of the doorknob turning. Soft. Careful. Trying not to make noise. I called 911 with shaking hands. The operator told me to stay quiet. Told me officers were on their way. But the man wasn't waiting. He was pushing the back door. Gently at first. Then harder. Then he whispered through the cracks of the door. "Don't hide from me. I've been waiting all year." My stomach dropped. Waiting? For me? Why? The back door suddenly shook hard. He rammed it with his shoulder. Once. Twice. A third time. The wood cracked. A small crack, but enough to see part of his coat through the splinters. He was getting in. I ran upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom. I held my breath. I could hear him in the kitchen now, his boots thumping slowly on the tiles. He was humming a Christmas tune. Silent Night. but out of tune, broken, off key, like he was mocking the holiday. He walked room to room, opening closets, dragging something heavy along the floor. I heard metal tapping, like a knife hitting the wall accidentally. Then he reached the staircase. I heard him climbing. One step, slow, deliberate,